Deers might see sugar as something to avoid, but for humans, sugar is far more than just a sweet ingredient. It's brown gold, quietly powering a massive global industry. But here's the real question. How are millions of tons of sugarcane produced every single year? Behind this simple-looking plant lies a system so vast and intense, it almost feels unreal. The journey begins in endless fields where sugarcane is harvested, not by hand, but by enormous, almost futuristic machines. And it doesn't stop there. Things only get more intense as these juicy stalks are rushed to advanced factories, where skilled workers and high-tech systems transform them into not just refined sugar, but also eco-friendly products and even livestock feed. Today, Agriculture Insight is taking you deep inside some of the most advanced sugar factories in the world, uncovering secrets you probably never expected. And trust me, you'll want to stay till the end, because there's a twist you won't see coming. Now imagine yourself standing in the middle of a sugarcane field stretching endlessly to the horizon, with tall, sturdy stalks rising toward the blazing sun. This isn't just any place. This is Brazil, the undisputed kingdom of sugarcane. Every year, this country produces over 700 million tons of sugarcane, more than anywhere else on Earth. But here's the shocking part. This ordinary-looking grass has built an industry worth over $40 billion. And here's something even more surprising. Just 10 sugarcane stalks can produce 1 kilogram of sugar. While crops like wheat or fruits contain less than 10% sugar, sugarcane can reach up to 16%, making it one of the most efficient natural sources of sweetness on the planet. It's not just sweet, it's incredibly powerful. And everything truly begins when the harvest season kicks in, turning these silent fields into a place of non-stop action. But here's where things take a controversial turn. Before harvesting even begins, many farmers set the fields on fire. Sounds extreme, right? But there's a calculated reason behind it: to burn away dry leaves and unwanted tops. This makes harvesting faster and cleaner by reducing excess material. However, this method comes with a serious downside: thick smoke and harmful emissions that can damage air quality and public health. Because of this, sugarcane burning is now heavily regulated in many regions. And a new shift is happening toward harvesting fresh, unburned cane using modern machines. These machines are incredibly precise, cutting close to the ground without damaging the roots, allowing the plant to regrow for future harvests. As the machine moves forward, sharp rotating blades slice through the stalks with clean precision, while a smart onboard system instantly separates leaves and tops. And here's the surprising part: even the waste isn't wasted. It's thrown back onto the field, forming a natural layer that improves soil fertility. Meanwhile, the valuable cane stalks are cut into smaller pieces and stored inside the machine. A single modern harvester can process between 80 to 120 tons per hour, the work of dozens of laborers replaced in minutes. This isn't just efficiency. It's a complete transformation of farming itself. And once the machine is full, the cane is immediately transferred into trucks, ensuring it stays fresh and retains its maximum sugar content. Next comes transportation, where millions of tons of sugarcane must reach the factory as quickly as possible. Any delay, and the cane starts losing its sweetness. Each batch is tested carefully to measure its sugar level, determining its true value. But the real process begins when the cane is washed under high-pressure water systems. It may seem like a basic step, but if done incorrectly, it can ruin the entire production quality. After washing, the cane is chopped into smaller pieces and fed into heavy-duty machines where interlocking gears tear it apart completely. Operating at speeds of up to 30 tons per hour, this system keeps the factory running non-stop. Then comes the moment where powerful rollers crush the cane, squeezing out its precious juice. This raw juice is the real treasure, the foundation of everything that follows. But the story doesn't end here, because even the leftover dry pulp, known as bagasse, takes the process in a completely unexpected direction. Instead of being discarded, it's transformed into eco-friendly products like plates, cups, and paper. It goes through washing, grinding, and high-temperature processing before being molded into shape. At temperatures between 160 to 200 degrees Celsius, the pulp hardens into durable products. And here's the impressive part: These items can biodegrade within just 60 to 90 days, compared to plastic which can take up to 1,000 years. But here's the twist. Without proper disposal conditions, even these eco-friendly products may not break down as quickly as expected. And now comes the most anticipated stage, where sugarcane juice is finally turned into the white sugar crystals we use every day. The raw juice still contains impurities, which are removed by adding lime. Then it enters an evaporation system where water is gradually removed, turning the liquid into a thick syrup. Finally, the crystallization process begins. Seed crystals are added, and slowly, sugar starts forming into solid crystals. In the final step, a high-speed centrifuge separates the sugar crystals from molasses. And right here, the final outcome is decided, whether it becomes raw brown sugar or pure refined white sugar. A question that has quietly puzzled many people for years. What really makes brown sugar different from white sugar? At first glance, it seems simple, but the truth is far more interesting. Brown sugar actually holds onto about 3 to 5% of its natural molasses, which gives it that deep color and rich, almost caramel-like aroma. White sugar, on the other hand, goes through an intense refining process until it reaches nearly 99.9% pure sucrose, giving it that clean, bright appearance and sharp sweetness. But even after centrifugation, the sugar crystals aren't completely ready. They still contain moisture. And this is where things get critical. The crystals are sent through a drying system where every trace of moisture is removed, preventing clumps and extending shelf life. Only then are they ready to move forward, but not to the final stage just yet, because one more transformation is waiting. To achieve that perfectly pure white sugar, a decolorization process begins. The partially refined sugar is dissolved in hot water at around 80 degrees Celsius, turning it back into a liquid once again. But here's where the real purification happens. The solution is filtered through layers of sand, gravel, and finally activated carbon columns that strip away every trace of color. It's almost like erasing its identity completely. Then, in a final spin through a centrifuge, what emerges are flawless white sugar crystals. Exactly the kind you see every day. But the journey doesn't stop at production, because now comes speed and precision. The finished sugar is cooled and sent into a fully automated packaging system operating in a sealed, ultra-clean environment. Everything here is controlled down to the smallest detail. Electronic scales measure exact portions with incredible accuracy, ensuring every package meets strict standards. The sugar is then funneled into pre-formed plastic bags, which are created, filled, and sealed in a continuous motion. And here's the mind-blowing part. This system can pack dozens, even hundreds of bags every single minute. But before anything leaves the factory, there's one final checkpoint. Metal detectors scan each package to ensure absolute safety. Only after passing inspection are the bags labeled, coded, and packed into large boxes, ready to flood the market. Now here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Sugar doesn't just come from sugarcane. In fact, in countries like the United States, sugar beets play an equally powerful role. These crops are grown across massive regions like California, Idaho, Michigan, Nebraska, and North Dakota. And here's the surprising truth: about 55% of the sugar consumed in the US actually comes from sugar beets, not cane. This means two completely different plants are feeding the same global demand. But sugar beets don't just stop at sugar. Their leftover pulp is used as livestock feed, making them a crucial part of the agricultural chain. It's a system where nothing truly goes to waste. The process begins in spring, when the soil warms and frost disappears. Farmers prepare their fields carefully, plowing the soil, removing weeds, and improving drainage to create the perfect environment for growth. To boost fertility, manure is often added, locking in moisture and nutrients. Then comes planting, using advanced seed drills that ensure perfect spacing and efficiency. Each machine carries thousands of chemically treated seeds, planting them 2 to 3 centimeters deep into the soil. Every detail matters here, because even a small mistake can affect the final yield. As the plants begin to grow, constant care becomes essential. Automated irrigation systems sweep across the fields, spraying water evenly through rotating arms. Too little water, and the plants weaken. Too much, and they become damaged. is a delicate balance. Alongside irrigation, fertilizers rich in nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are applied to accelerate growth and ensure high yields. Special equipment is also used to maintain the soil, protecting the crops and improving nutrient absorption. After 7 to 8 months, the sugar beets are finally ready, but this is where precision becomes everything. Modern harvesting machines take over, transforming what used to be labor-intensive work into a highly efficient operation. These machines dig deep into the soil, carefully lifting the beets without damaging them. Conveyor belts move them through cleaning systems that remove dirt and impurities instantly. But here's the twist: harvesting isn't done by just one machine. It's a coordinated system. One machine removes the leaves, while another extracts the roots, ensuring maximum efficiency and quality. Once harvested, the beets are loaded onto trucks, but not directly from the fields. Instead, conveyor systems transfer them to roadside storage areas, where massive piles begin to form. And when you see these towering heaps, you realize the true scale of this industry. But this step isn't just about storage. It's about maintaining a continuous supply for factories, ensuring production never slows down. Inside the processing plant, the transformation begins again. But this time, it's even more controlled and precise. The beets are washed with powerful jets of water, removing every trace of dirt and debris. Then they pass through optical scanning systems that inspect each beet, rejecting anything that doesn't meet the standard. Only the best move forward. Next comes slicing, where the beets are cut into thin strips called cassettes. This increases their surface area, making sugar extraction more efficient. These strips are then placed into large tanks filled with hot water at around 70 degrees Celsius, dissolving the natural sugar and creating a raw juice. But this juice isn't perfect yet. It still carries impurities. To purify it, lime milk and carbon dioxide are added, triggering a chemical reaction that separates unwanted particles. After filtration, the liquid becomes clearer, but still not pure enough. It then enters evaporation towers, where water is removed under vacuum conditions, preserving the sugar's quality. As the concentration increases, the liquid is transferred into crystallizers, where seed crystals are introduced. Slowly, sugar crystals begin to grow. But even now, they aren't completely finished. The crystals are coated with molasses, giving them a golden tint. A high-speed centrifuge spins them rapidly, separating the molasses and revealing cleaner sugar crystals. The molasses doesn't go to waste. It's reused in other industries. Meanwhile, the sugar moves to drying systems, where hot air removes remaining moisture, ensuring perfect texture and purity. Finally, the finished sugar is packaged, whether in small bags for households or large sacks for industrial use. Liquid sugar, like syrup, is bottled separately in specialized systems. And just like that, what started as a muddy root buried deep in the soil becomes a refined product used across the world. Now you've seen the complete journey from field to factory, from raw plant to refined sugar. But the real question is, next time you see a spoon of sugar, will you still think it's just something sweet? Or will you remember the massive hidden process behind it? Feeling overwhelmed by work? Maybe it's time to step away and enter a world most people never truly think about. The vast citrus orchards spread across the United States. These fruits may seem simple, refreshing, and healthy, but behind them lies a massive, carefully controlled system. Every year, American farmers harvest nearly 4.9 million tons of tangerines alone. Sounds unbelievable, right? But the real story isn't just about numbers. It's about the intense process that makes it possible. Today, we're not just looking at fruits. We're stepping into a hidden world of precision, technology, and effort that turns small blossoms into millions of perfectly ripened citrus fruits. The journey begins in places like California and Florida, the true heartlands of citrus farming. These regions aren't chosen randomly. Their climate perfectly matches what citrus trees need to survive and thrive. But here's where things get interesting. Farmers don't just grow trees naturally. They use a technique called grafting, where one part of a plant is fused with another. The rootstock is chosen for strength and resistance, while the upper part determines the type of fruit. It's almost like designing the perfect tree. Once these parts fuse together, They grow as one, forming a powerful, productive plant. After months of care in nurseries, these young trees are finally moved to orchards, spaced carefully to ensure they have enough room to grow. But growing these trees isn't as easy as planting and waiting. In dry regions like California, water becomes a critical challenge. That's why farmers rely on drip irrigation systems, delivering precise amounts of water directly to the roots. Too much or too little water could ruin everything. At the same time, advanced machines handle fertilization, spraying nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium exactly when the plants need them. Even pruning is no longer done by hand in large orchards. Automated machines cut away weak branches, allowing sunlight and air to flow freely, reducing disease risks. It's a system where every detail is calculated. Yet despite all this control, nature still fights back. Citrus trees can suffer from diseases like yellow leaf disease, which can silently kill entire trees if not treated in time. This is where farmers step in quickly, using specialized treatments to protect their crops. After 2 to 3 years of careful nurturing, the trees finally reach maturity. And then comes one of the most beautiful moments, a blooming season. The air fills with the fragrance of citrus flowers, attracting bees that play a crucial role in pollination. Without them, yields would drop significantly. It's a delicate partnership between nature and human effort. Months later, the fruits begin to form, but they aren't ready just yet.